Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Apocalypto unfolds as a visceral meditation on the collapse of a civilization and the individual human spirit struggling to survive within its ruins. It begins deep within the lush Mesoamerican rainforest, where the ancient world feels alive through sound, rhythm, and the breath of nature. The villagers, isolated from the towering cities of the Maya, live simple lives governed by hunting, family bonds, and rituals passed down from ancestors. The jungle is not simply a backdrop but an extension of the people themselves, a living organism that shelters, threatens, nourishes, and communicates. As the story opens with a tense but humorous hunt, the audience immediately understands the communal bond of the tribe. Their world is small but complete, their happiness lies in their unity and traditions. However, underneath this surface of serenity lies a quiet tension that reflects the fragility of civilizations, both great and small. The early sequences of hunting and playful banter present a rare glimpse into indigenous life before the intrusion of external forces. These scenes are crucial because they create an emotional anchor. The audience grows attached to Jaguar Paw, his wife Seven, their young son, and the friends who share their daily struggles. The forest is presented not as a mysterious unknown but as an intimate home filled with familiar scents, textures, and life cycles. This intimacy later contrasts sharply with the monumental, alien-like architecture of the Mayan cities where oppression, fear, ritual sacrifice, and societal decay dominate. Mel Gibson's creative intent was to depict the Maya world not as the exotic fantasy often presented in popular media but as a complex society with beauty, brutality, and internal contradictions. Soon the story shifts when Jaguar Paw and his tribe encounter a group of frightened nomads whose village has been destroyed. Their warning about an encroaching force hints at the unraveling of the world Jaguar Paw knows. The look in their eyes tells of horrors difficult to articulate, and this foreboding energy spreads across the forest like a silent wind. Jaguar Paw, unsettled by the encounter, begins to sense something catastrophic beneath the normal rhythm of life. A stunning moment occurs when he gazes toward the tree line, feeling an unseen presence. This blend of instinct and cinematic tension amplifies the sense that history's tide is turning, and no small tribe can escape its force. The invasion at dawn is one of the most intense sequences in historical cinema. Warriors from a larger, more dominant civilization storm the peaceful village with brutal precision. Their appearance, body paint, weapons, and disciplined formation contrast heavily with the simplicity of Jaguar Paw's people. In these moments, the film's theme becomes clear: civilizations devour one another in cycles of power, fear, and ambition. Jaguar Paw hides his pregnant wife and young son in a deep pit before being captured, thus setting the emotional stakes. His family's survival becomes his driving force, surpassing even the instinct for his own life. The pit becomes a symbol of both vulnerability and hope, a womb-like chamber connected directly to the metaphor of rebirth later in the story. As Jaguar Paw and the captured villagers are forced through the jungle toward the city, the audience is introduced to the wider world of the Maya civilization. The procession passes through charred fields, dislocated families, slave-like laborers, and barren places stripped of life, revealing that the great society at the center of the region is consuming more than it can sustain. These haunting images are drawn from archaeological theories that excessive population growth, resource depletion, and warfare may have contributed to the decline of the Maya. The film does not claim academic accuracy but uses historical cues to build a narrative rooted in emotional truth rather than textbook chronology. The arrival at the Maya city is a visual shockwave. Massive stone pyramids tower into the sky. Crowds fill the streets. Colors, drums, chants, and ritualistic imagery overwhelm the senses. This city embodies immense artistic and architectural achievement, yet beneath its grandeur is a deep spiritual sickness. People desperately offer anything, food, jade, labor, even their children, to appease their gods. Disease ravages the poor, and superstition grasps the minds of the masses. Mel Gibson stresses contrast again. The humble village represented a natural balance, while the great city shows imbalance, overconsumption, and fear-ridden society attempting to preserve itself through blood and spectacle. The sacrifice scene is one of the most iconic and disturbing sequences. Jaguar Paw and his companions are prepared as offerings atop the pyramid. The ceremonial function is presented with a chilling mixture of precision and spectacle. Priests perform their sacred duties with an unsettling combination of devotion and theatricality. Musicians beat drums, dancers perform rituals, and the crowd roars in frenzied expectation. It is a historical dramatization meant to symbolize how societies in decline cling to extreme religious or political displays to maintain control and unity. Gibson's filmmaking does not judge the ancient world, instead, it exposes universal patterns seen across ages and civilizations, power using spectacle to sustain its hold. Jaguar Paw narrowly escapes death when a solar eclipse interrupts the ritual. Historically, Maya astronomers studied celestial cycles with astonishing accuracy, and the film uses this knowledge as a narrative device. The eclipse creates a moment of divine ambiguity. The priests claim it as the god's will, ordering the sacrifices to stop. Jaguar Paw's life is spared temporarily, but he is taken to a different form of execution, being used as sport in a cruel hunting game by the warriors. This shift emphasizes that even when belief systems momentarily pause violence, human cruelty often persists. The hunters pursue Jaguar Paw through the forest, thinking of him as nothing more than prey. But the jungle, his home, becomes his greatest weapon. Each scene of the chase reveals Jaguar Paw transforming from frightened captive into focused survivor. He uses traps, instincts, terrain, and timing to eliminate his pursuers one by one. The forest that once seemed peaceful now becomes a battleground of intelligence, grit, and primal courage. This transformation underscores one of the film's core messages: strength and resilience emerge when a human is fighting for love, family, and continuity. Meanwhile, Jaguar Paw's wife Seven struggles in the flooded pit with her young son, trapped between life and death. Her scenes echo themes of motherhood, endurance, and the unbreakable bond of family. As rainstorms intensify, water fills the pit, adding an additional layer of tension. The dual narrative, Jaguar Paw battling death in the jungle and Seven fighting nature to protect their unborn child, creates a dynamic emotional rhythm that drives the movie to its climax. When the surviving hunters finally confront Jaguar Paw near the coastline, a surreal moment occurs. Ships arrive on the horizon carrying foreign men, Spanish conquistadors accompanied by missionaries holding crosses. This moment, though brief, symbolizes a historical pivot, the end of one era and the beginning of another, equally transformative and devastating. Jaguar Paw escapes during the hunter's moment of distraction, symbolizing how the great shifts of history often occur while individuals grapple with personal battles of their own. He makes his way back to his village and rescues his family just as the last of the hunters close in. The birth of his child during the rescue represents renewal, continuity, and the beginning of a new cycle despite the destruction surrounding them. Jaguar Paw chooses not to approach the arriving Europeans. Instead, he leads his family deeper into the forest, seeking a future rooted in nature, tradition, and survival rather than conquest or domination. This final choice reiterates the film's philosophical core: civilizations rise and fall, but human resilience and the will to protect one's family endure across centuries. The cast of Apocalypto is composed almost entirely of indigenous actors. Rudy Youngblood, who plays Jaguar Paw, delivers a performance of remarkable physical intensity and emotional depth. His portrayal captures both vulnerability and inner strength, maintaining authenticity throughout the film's most demanding sequences. The actors who portray the hunters, priests, villagers, and royal figures bring a unique texture to the film, as many had not acted previously. Their naturalism enhances the realism and rawness of the movie, creating a world that feels lived in rather than staged. The film was shot primarily in Mexico, in the lush rainforests of Veracruz and Catemaco. The environment was harsh, humid, and unpredictable, but this created authenticity in the visuals. The cinematography by Dean Semler emphasizes earth tones, shifting atmospheres, and visceral physicality. The camera movement is fluid, intimate, and immersive, pulling the audience into each chase, ritual, and emotional moment. Makeup, costume design, and body painting were all meticulously created to reflect a fusion of archaeological insights and cinematic stylization. The props, stone structures, and set designs required months of research and construction. When Apocalypto was released in 2006, it generated intense global discussion. Some praised its boldness, historical immersion, and artistic daring. Others debated its portrayal of ancient civilizations, arguing over accuracy and interpretive liberties. Still, the film's technical achievements, sound design, pacing, costume detail, language authenticity, and physical performance, garnered widespread acclaim. The trailer emphasized the visceral action, ancient world setting, and heart-pounding survival narrative, attracting audiences fascinated by historical epics and raw adventure storytelling. The movie's release date was December 8, 2006, and despite its unconventional language and brutal content, it performed strongly worldwide. It became a reference point for filmmakers exploring indigenous languages, survival narratives, and ancient world storytelling. Over time, it has gained cult status among fans of intense historical cinema. The impact of Apocalypto on film culture extends far beyond its initial release, growing stronger with time as modern audiences rediscover its layered intensity, craftsmanship, and uncompromising storytelling. Many viewers are struck by how the film communicates its entire emotional universe without relying on modern language or conventional exposition. The choice to use Yucatec Maya grounds the audience in a world where communication is driven by primal emotion, gesture, movement, and atmosphere. It invites viewers to feel the story rather than simply watch it, a quality that makes the film immersive in a way that transcends linguistic barriers. This sensory-driven narrative is one of the reasons the film remains uniquely powerful, conveying universal themes through detail, rhythm, and raw visual storytelling rather than relying on dialogue-heavy explanations. As the film progressed through its promotional cycle, the use of an ancient indigenous language intrigued academics, linguists, and cultural experts. Some praised the effort as a respectful attempt to revive and highlight a historical tongue. Others criticized the dramatization of certain customs as being compressed, exaggerated, or blended across time periods. This mixture of responses reflects a broader debate common in historical cinema, the balance between dramatization and strict adherence to academic accuracy. Mel Gibson's team acknowledged from early stages that the film was designed not as a documentary but as a dramatized emotional journey set within an ancient cultural framework. The result is a film that evokes the feeling of a civilization experiencing upheaval rather than providing a textbook replication of historical events. This distinction is essential in understanding the film's artistic intent. During production, the team spent extraordinary effort constructing realistic environments. The city sets were built by hand using thousands of artisans, craftsmen, and laborers who recreated elaborate pyramids, marketplaces, ceremonial platforms, living quarters, slave pits, and ritual spaces. The production design incorporated elements from Maya murals, codices, carvings, and archaeological interpretations to create an authentic visual language. Details such as jade jewelry, body paint, feathered headdresses, bone ornaments, stone tools, and textiles were all handcrafted using traditional methods wherever possible. This gave the movie a tactile realism. Objects looked used, lived in, and symbolic, as if they belonged to a society with deep spiritual and economic systems. Natural elements played a defining role in the shooting experience. The jungle environment tested the endurance of the cast and crew daily. Rains turned the ground to mud, insects swarmed through the sets, humidity soaked costumes and equipment. Actors were often required to run barefoot over roots, rocks, and forest debris. Stunt coordinators had to design action sequences that felt both dangerous and authentic, using real terrain instead of manufactured platforms. These challenges ultimately contributed to the film's visual honesty. Sweat, dirt, exhaustion, and physical strain were not artificially applied, they were lived realities captured by the camera. One of the most striking aspects of the film is its use of sound. The jungle has a voice in Apocalypto, not only through the cries of animals and the buzz of insects but through the quiet moments where the soundscape amplifies psychological tension. The sound design blends human breath, rustling leaves, distant cries, and percussive elements to create a constantly shifting auditory atmosphere. When Jaguar Paw hides or stalks through the forest, the sound narrows to subtle movements. During city rituals, drums, flutes, chanting crowds, and ritualistic crescendos dominate the soundscape, creating a sense of overwhelming cultural force. The contrast between the natural world and the constructed world is communicated as much through sound as through visuals. The psychological depth of Jaguar Paw's journey is one of the film's enduring strengths. At the beginning, he is a man defined by community, humor, and routine. The destruction of his village forces him into a state of pure survival. But as the story progresses, survival transforms into something deeper, an awakening of his identity, his strength, and his ancestral connection to the forest. The moment he tells himself fear is a sickness serves as a thematic turning point. It reflects the idea that fear becomes destructive when it controls a person's actions. Survival comes from clarity, courage, and the will to protect others. This philosophical foundation echoes indigenous worldviews that emphasize interconnectedness with nature, inner spirit, and lineage. The forest becomes not just a battlefield but a mentor, shaping Jaguar Paw into a symbol of resilience. The antagonists in the film, particularly the hunter group led by Zero Wolf and his son Cut Rock, are crafted to embody the brutality and arrogance of elite warriors from the dominating city-state. However, the film avoids portraying them as one-dimensional villains. They are driven by pride, social expectation, and their own internal codes of power. Zero Wolf's complexity is revealed through subtle moments, his disappointment in his son's mistakes, his ruthlessness in pursuit, and his determination to maintain dominance. His relationship with his warriors reflects an internal hierarchy fueled by reputation, masculinity, and ferocity. These opposing forces make the pursuit dynamic, with each character contributing a distinct threat or personality. The scenes of ritual sacrifice within the city remain some of the most discussed moments in the film. These sequences are filmed with grand scale and disturbing beauty, reflecting how societies often cloak violence in ceremonial aesthetics. The crowds, vibrant colors, incense smoke, towering structures, and rhythmic chanting create a mesmerizing visual, even as the acts being performed are horrific. The duality of beauty and brutality is intentional. It represents the human tendency to normalize extreme behavior through culture, tradition, and spectacle. The eclipse that interrupts the ritual is both a historical nod and a dramatic symbol. For the Maya, celestial events were intertwined with spiritual interpretation. For the film's narrative, the eclipse becomes a cosmic shift that allows Jaguar Paw's destiny to unfold. When the chase resumes, the pacing of the film shifts dramatically. The city life fades away, and the raw intensity of the forest becomes the central stage. The cinematography changes rhythm. Close, handheld shots emphasize urgency. Wide, sweeping shots capture the overwhelming scale of nature. Slow-motion sequences highlight moments of revelation or near-death. The film's second half feels almost like a primal ballet, a poetic dance of predator and prey that constantly flips roles. Jaguar Paw uses his environment to create traps, poison dart frogs, jaguar territories, quicksand pits, and the powerful currents of waterfalls. These elements showcase the ingenuity of survival rooted in ancestral knowledge. A particularly memorable sequence involves Jaguar Paw being chased by a jaguar, which becomes both a literal threat and a symbolic echo of his name. The jaguar, a sacred animal in Mesoamerican cultures, represents strength, stealth, and spiritual power. Its presence emphasizes Jaguar Paw's transformation into his namesake, a creature of the forest with heightened awareness and courage. This symbolic layering deepens the emotional resonance of the chase, turning it into a rite of passage rather than a mere escape. Meanwhile, the struggle of Seven in the pit creates a parallel emotional narrative. Her determination to protect her children becomes a mirror of Jaguar Paw's determination to return. The rising water symbolizes time closing in, the world collapsing around her. She uses stones, roots, and every small resource available to create makeshift steps and support structures. Her ingenuity reflects the film's emphasis on human resilience across genders. Not only warriors but mothers, children, and unborn life all contribute to the story's emotional fabric. As Jaguar Paw reduces the number of hunters through strategy and environmental mastery, the drama intensifies. Zero Wolf's grief over his son's death turns personal fury into a driving force. The dynamic shifts again when the survivors of the hunting party reach the coastline and witness the approaching ships. This moment is deliberately quiet and mysterious. The foreigners stand motionless in fog, their armor and crosses appearing alien and enigmatic. Their arrival symbolizes an incoming cultural tsunami that will reshape the entire region. The hunters, witnessing this sight, appear stunned, not afraid, not awed, but momentarily disoriented, unable to interpret what they see. This pause allows Jaguar Paw to slip away once more, returning the focus to his personal journey. The final stretch of Jaguar Paw's run is fueled by pure emotional momentum. He returns to his village remnants, fights off the last hunters, and reaches the pit where his family is trapped in rising water. The timing is precise, symbolic, and deeply emotional. His newborn child becomes the embodiment of hope, a life born from chaos, representing continuity in a world undergoing radical change. The image of Jaguar Paw lifting his family out of the darkness and into the light of the forest resonates as a metaphor for emerging from trauma into rebirth. When the film concludes with Jaguar Paw choosing to venture deeper into the forest instead of approaching the newcomers, the narrative leaves viewers with a philosophical contemplation rather than a definitive historical statement. This ending emphasizes the theme of returning to roots, choosing identity over assimilation, and seeking safety in the wisdom of ancestors rather than in the uncertain promises of foreign power. The story closes not with the collapse of a civilization but with the continuation of a lineage, reinforcing the idea that survival is not merely physical but cultural and spiritual. What makes Apocalypto persist in popular memory is its merging of primal storytelling with grand historical imagery. Its characters communicate through action, expression, and elemental stakes rather than through exposition. Its world feels ancient yet emotionally accessible. Its themes, power, fear, courage, family, collapse, and rebirth, are universal, transcending time and geography. The film's artistic choices create a sense of immediacy, drawing the viewer into a world both familiar and foreign, frightening and beautiful. The physical and emotional toll on the actors during production contributed significantly to the authenticity of the performances. Filming in dense rainforest environments required actors to endure extreme heat, humidity, and swarming insects, while performing physically demanding stunts such as running, climbing, swimming, and fighting. Rudy Youngblood, in particular, embodied Jaguar Paw in every sense, undergoing rigorous training to develop the stamina and agility necessary for the relentless chase sequences. The weariness, sweat, and dirt visible on the characters were not added artificially, they were the direct result of the actors inhabiting the environment, which created an almost documentary-level realism. This commitment extends to the supporting cast as well, many of whom were non-professional actors, giving their performances a raw, unpolished quality that heightened the immersive experience of the film. The design and construction of the Maya city sets represent a monumental feat of cinematic craftsmanship. Every detail, from stone carvings to woven textiles, was carefully researched to reflect known archaeological evidence and artistic interpretations of Maya culture. Marketplaces were filled with recreated food, tools, and everyday items, making the city feel alive and functional. The pyramids were constructed to scale where possible, enabling sequences of human sacrifice, processions, and chases to unfold naturally within the architectural space. The use of practical sets over CGI whenever feasible gave the film a tangible sense of place, allowing both actors and audiences to fully inhabit the ancient world. Even small details, such as the alignment of ceremonial altars or the design of ritual masks, were chosen for symbolic resonance as well as visual impact. The film's chase sequences are structured as a continuous escalation, blurring the line between action and existential struggle. Each sequence increases in complexity, danger, and emotional stakes, transforming what could have been a simple pursuit into a meditation on human endurance and ingenuity. Jaguar Paw's resourcefulness, using natural traps, environmental camouflage, and calculated risks, demonstrates the intersection of instinct and intelligence in survival. The forest becomes not just a setting but a narrative partner, offering both threat and refuge, shaping the story as much as any human character. The choreography of these sequences also mirrors the rhythms of the narrative, shifting from long, tense stretches of stealth and observation to sudden bursts of action, keeping the audience engaged while reinforcing the emotional trajectory of the protagonist. 7's storyline provides a vital emotional counterpoint to Jaguar Paw's chase. Her struggle in the pit, compounded by rising water and the vulnerability of her young child, underscores the theme of maternal courage and the human instinct to protect future generations. Her ingenuity, leveraging natural materials and creating improvised solutions, parallels Jaguar Paw's adaptability, reinforcing the film's broader meditation on human resilience. The narrative tension oscillates between the two storylines, creating a dual rhythm of suspense, one moving through the dangers of the forest and hunters, the other confined, intimate, and threatened by environmental forces. This interplay of micro and macro-level threats deepens the emotional impact, illustrating that survival is multidimensional, encompassing physical, psychological, and relational challenges. The arrival of the Spanish ships, though brief, introduces a profound historical subtext. The Europeans appear distant, almost ghostly, suggesting the inexorable approach of colonial forces that would dramatically reshape the Americas. The film deliberately leaves this encounter unresolved, emphasizing Jaguar Paw's personal journey over historical narrative. This choice reinforces the timelessness of his struggle. The audience is invited to consider survival and human agency within the context of vast, uncontrollable historical forces. It also subtly critiques the idea of historical inevitability, showing that individual choices and courage remain meaningful even amidst the sweep of conquest and societal upheaval. Sound and music in the film function as narrative and emotional amplifiers. Drums, flutes, chanting, and natural soundscapes guide the audience's attention and heighten tension. The forest is never silent, rustling leaves, distant predator calls, and the gurgle of water create a persistent auditory texture that informs mood and stakes. In the city, ritualistic sounds dominate, rhythmic percussion, chanting, and ceremonial exclamations convey the structured, performative intensity of the civilization, contrasting sharply with the organic auditory complexity of the forest. The selective use of silence, moments when the forest seems to hold its breath or when characters pause in suspense, creates heightened anticipation, making the audience acutely aware of every subtle sound and movement. Thematically, the film explores the cyclical nature of civilization and the enduring power of human instinct. The contrast between the fragile harmony of the village, the brutal spectacle of the city, and the unforgiving logic of the jungle conveys the tension between order, hierarchy, and natural law. Societies rise and fall, empires dominate and crumble, but the human spirit, when motivated by love, loyalty, and survival, persists. Jaguar Paw's journey embodies this principle. He is a microcosm of resilience, navigating a world shaped by forces beyond his control while remaining tethered to his own values and relationships. The story emphasizes that history and survival are intertwined, yet personal courage and ingenuity can define outcomes even in the most chaotic circumstances. The visual symbolism is rich and persistent. Water frequently represents both danger and renewal, flooding pits threaten life but also signify cleansing and rebirth. Fire appears as a destructive force but also illuminates truth and exposes hidden realities. Animals, particularly predators like the jaguar, serve as both literal and metaphorical guides, reflecting instinct, spiritual presence, and the primal forces that underpin human existence. Celestial phenomena, such as the eclipse, highlight humanity's connection to larger cosmic cycles, underscoring the interplay between destiny, choice, and natural order. These motifs work in concert with the narrative and cinematography, creating a layered, almost mythic storytelling framework that operates on multiple levels simultaneously. The performance style across the cast emphasizes physical expressiveness over verbal exposition. Gestures, facial expressions, posture, and movement convey complex emotional and relational dynamics, making the film an almost universal story. Even audiences unfamiliar with Yucatec Maya can intuitively understand fear, hope, anger, and love through these cues. The immersive authenticity of the performances, combined with the tactile reality of the sets and natural environments, allows the film to communicate meaning directly through human presence and action, bypassing the limitations of language and conventional narrative structures. The psychological tension in Apocalypto is heightened by the deliberate pacing of action and reflection. Jaguar Paw's journey is punctuated by moments of stillness that allow audiences to sense the weight of his circumstances. Each pause, whether crouched in dense foliage, listening for approaching hunters, or scanning the tree-line for potential threats, serves to deepen empathy and immerse viewers in the experience of suspense. These quiet interludes contrast sharply with the rapid, violent sequences of pursuit, creating a rhythm that mirrors the unpredictability of life in the ancient world. The film's ability to manipulate tension and release makes the survival narrative not just physically thrilling but psychologically engaging, inviting the audience to inhabit the protagonist's fear, strategy, and hope. The depiction of violence in the film is intense, visceral, and uncompromising, yet it is purposeful. It is not sensationalized for entertainment alone but used to communicate the stakes, the brutality of human history, and the fragility of existence. From the initial village attack to the relentless pursuit through the jungle, each act of aggression underscores the consequences of societal collapse and the cost of survival. Importantly, the film draws a distinction between indiscriminate cruelty and strategic, purposeful violence. Jaguar Paw's actions, while sometimes lethal, are measured and motivated by necessity, highlighting the ethical dimension of survival. In contrast, the hunter's brutality is systemic, reinforcing the film's commentary on hierarchical societies that exploit and consume the weaker for ritual, power, or personal gain. The environmental cinematography reinforces thematic contrasts. The lush, vibrant greens of the forest evoke life, growth, and natural balance, while the stone, dust, and muted tones of the city suggest rigidity, decay, and oppressive social structure. Sunlight filtering through trees, mist rising from rivers, and the interplay of shadow and light create a cinematic tapestry that makes the jungle feel alive, almost sentient. The forest's unpredictability mirrors the uncertainty of survival and the necessity of attunement to natural rhythms. The camera's frequent use of low angles, tracking shots, and fluid motion puts viewers in Jaguar Paw's perspective, creating empathy and a sense of immediacy that is rare in large-scale historical epics. The interplay of human ingenuity and instinct is a recurring motif. Jaguar Paw's clever use of the environment, leveraging traps, terrain, and natural predators, underscores the theme that intelligence and adaptability are as vital as physical strength. This dynamic is mirrored in the resourcefulness of Seven, who transforms the pit, water, and available materials into tools for survival. Together, these parallel narratives demonstrate a holistic view of human resilience, emphasizing collaboration, strategy, and the ability to read and manipulate one's surroundings. The film celebrates this ingenuity not as spectacle but as a testament to the enduring human capacity for problem-solving under extreme stress. Cultural representation in Apocalypto is nuanced. While some critics debated historical accuracy, the film's primary objective is the faithful depiction of lived experience, environment, and emotional truth. The use of Yucatec Maya, traditional body art, and detailed ritualistic practices creates a sense of immersion rarely achieved in mainstream cinema. Rather than reducing the Maya civilization to a monolithic caricature, the film portrays a spectrum of human behavior: joy, humor, love, fear, cruelty, and spiritual devotion coexist within a complex social ecosystem. This approach allows the audience to see the civilization as a vibrant, multidimensional society, albeit one facing systemic pressures and moral challenges that precipitate its decline. Thematically, Apocalypto interrogates the tension between determinism and free will. Jaguar Paw navigates forces far larger than himself: societal collapse, historical inevitability, natural hazards, and the arrival of colonial powers. Yet his choices, where to hide, how to fight, when to act, demonstrate the profound impact of individual agency. The film suggests that while humans cannot control the broad sweep of history, courage, resourcefulness, and moral clarity allow individuals to shape their immediate world and protect what they value most. This philosophical tension between fate and agency enriches the narrative, giving it depth beyond the surface-level adventure and action. The arrival of the Spanish ships introduces a subtle historical foreshadowing, emphasizing that civilizations rise and fall not only due to internal conflict but also through external forces. Though the Europeans appear briefly and ambiguously, their presence evokes centuries of cultural disruption, conquest, and transformation. Jaguar Paw's decision to avoid them and continue deeper into the forest signals a conscious choice to preserve life and autonomy rather than seek engagement with unknown forces. This narrative choice underscores the film's focus on human-centered storytelling. The personal, emotional, and relational stakes take precedence over the broader historical inevitability. It is a meditation on survival, continuity, and the prioritization of intimate bonds over political or colonial events. Sound design in the latter sequences reinforces both tension and thematic resonance. The crescendo of drums during ritual sequences, the rustle of leaves underfoot, and the intermittent cries of predators create an aural landscape that is simultaneously disorienting and immersive. Silence is employed strategically, often signaling moments of introspection, suspense, or spiritual significance. The combination of diegetic and ambient sound immerses the audience in Jaguar Paw's sensory reality, allowing viewers to feel the proximity of danger, the stillness of the forest, and the unpredictability of the natural and social environment. This layered approach to sound design is crucial to the film's emotional impact, enhancing suspense, empathy, and thematic nuance. The final sequences, depicting Jaguar Paw's return to his family and the birth of his child, serve as both narrative closure and symbolic rebirth. These moments distill the film's central themes: the endurance of love, the protective instincts of family, and the resilience of life even amidst societal and environmental upheaval. The juxtaposition of personal triumph against a backdrop of historical and environmental uncertainty emphasizes the continuity of human experience. By choosing to lead his family deeper into the forest rather than engaging with the foreign ships, Jaguar Paw embodies the principles of preservation, agency, and connection to ancestral knowledge. The conclusion leaves viewers reflecting on the cyclical nature of survival, the enduring power of human bonds, and the relationship between individual choices and historical forces. The critical reception of Apocalypto was a mixture of admiration and controversy. Many praised its visual and narrative boldness, immersive authenticity, and the ambitious choice to use an indigenous language as the primary mode of communication. Critics highlighted the film's intense action sequences, complex choreography, and cinematic craftsmanship as exemplary of historical epic storytelling. Conversely, some scholars and reviewers debated aspects of historical accuracy, particularly in relation to depictions of Maya culture, ritual sacrifice, and societal dynamics. These debates, however, did not diminish the film's status as a landmark in immersive historical cinema, demonstrating that its power lies not solely in factual precision but in emotional and experiential truth. The production of Apocalypto demanded an extraordinary level of coordination and commitment from every member of the cast and crew. Mel Gibson's vision required not just accurate set design and choreography but an emotional fidelity that could withstand the harsh conditions of shooting in remote rainforest locations. Crew members had to transport and maintain equipment through dense vegetation, high humidity, and uneven terrain, while ensuring that cameras, lights, and sound recording devices functioned reliably in unpredictable weather. This logistical complexity amplified the realism captured on screen, as actors moved and performed in authentic environments rather than relying on artificial studio spaces. The physicality of the locations, combined with the intensity of the action sequences, gave the film an immediacy that would have been difficult to achieve otherwise. The use of natural light and environmental effects further heightened the film's visual authenticity. Scenes filmed beneath the jungle canopy often feature dappled sunlight filtering through leaves, creating dynamic shadows and textures that enhance the sense of depth and movement. Rain, mud, and water are not merely atmospheric elements but integral components of the narrative, affecting characters' mobility, vulnerability, and decision-making. These environmental factors contribute to the tactile realism of the film, immersing audiences in the protagonist's experience of the natural world. The filmmaker's attention to these details demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of how environmental storytelling can amplify both tension and emotional resonance. Choreography and stunt design in Apocalypto are remarkable for their integration with the natural environment. Each chase sequence, whether through dense jungle or along the river, is carefully structured to balance danger, narrative clarity, and cinematic spectacle. The film emphasizes intelligence and adaptability over raw strength alone, highlighting Jaguar Paw's resourcefulness in manipulating terrain, natural obstacles, and even the behavior of animals to his advantage. These sequences are not merely action set pieces, they are character-defining moments that reveal inner strength, courage, and ingenuity. The physical performance is complemented by strategic camera work, which maintains spatial clarity while conveying urgency and risk. The portrayal of ritualistic violence and human sacrifice, while visually and emotionally intense, is layered with symbolic significance. Sacrifice sequences convey the societal pressures and religious imperatives that define the Maya civilization, while also providing a stark contrast to Jaguar Paw's morally grounded actions. The film juxtaposes ritualized brutality with acts of protective courage, reinforcing the distinction between systemic cruelty and individual ethics. These sequences provoke reflection on the ways societies enforce power and control through spectacle, fear, and ritual, while simultaneously exploring the moral choices available to individuals within such systems. The film thus becomes both an adventure narrative and a meditation on the nature of human ethics under extreme conditions. The editing of Apocalypto is crucial to its narrative and emotional impact. The film employs a combination of rapid cuts during chase sequences and extended takes during moments of suspense or introspection, creating a rhythm that mirrors the protagonist's psychological state. This pacing allows tension to build organically, drawing audiences into the immediacy of the action while providing space for reflection during quieter, character-focused moments. The alternation between close-up and wide shots enhances the spatial and emotional understanding of scenes, allowing viewers to appreciate both the grandeur of the environment and the personal stakes of the narrative. The editing choices contribute to the immersive, almost documentary-like quality of the film, while still delivering cinematic spectacle. Thematically, the film emphasizes the resilience of human life and the importance of familial bonds. Jaguar Paw's actions are driven not by ambition, revenge, or glory, but by the imperative to protect his loved ones. This focus on relational stakes humanizes the narrative, grounding the epic-scale events in an intimate emotional reality. The film's depiction of both male and female forms of courage, Jaguar Paw's physical ingenuity and Seven's maternal resourcefulness, presents a holistic vision of human endurance. The jungle itself becomes a crucible for testing character, emphasizing that survival requires the integration of intelligence, emotion, and adaptability. Apocalypto also explores the tension between tradition and collapse. The Maya civilization depicted in the film exhibits grandeur, ritual precision, and hierarchical order, yet it is simultaneously fragile, prone to overextension, internal conflict, and ethical compromise. The collapse of Jaguar Paw's village and the subsequent chaos of the city sequences illustrate the vulnerability of complex societies to both internal mismanagement and external pressures. These narrative elements highlight the cyclical nature of civilization, suggesting that human societies are perpetually at risk of imbalance, yet capable of renewal and adaptation through individual courage and ingenuity. The final sequences reinforce themes of rebirth and continuity. The birth of Jaguar Paw's child amidst the chaos of survival symbolizes hope, renewal, and the persistence of life even in the face of devastation. The decision to retreat further into the forest rather than engage with the arriving Spanish ships underscores a choice to preserve autonomy, tradition, and familial integrity over engagement with forces beyond one's control. The ending suggests a continuity of life and culture that transcends historical collapse, emphasizing human resilience as a constant amidst societal and environmental upheaval. The reception of Apocalypto solidified its status as a landmark in historical adventure filmmaking. Critics and audiences alike praised its visual authenticity, immersive storytelling, and commitment to cultural and linguistic fidelity. The film was recognized for pushing the boundaries of mainstream cinema by presenting a story entirely in an indigenous language, with minimal reliance on modern dialogue. While some debates arose regarding historical accuracy and depiction of ritual practices, the consensus acknowledged the film's success in conveying emotional and experiential truths. Its influence extends to subsequent historical and survival films, inspiring filmmakers to prioritize environmental authenticity, physical performance, and immersive narrative techniques. The legacy of Apocalypto extends far beyond its immediate box office success, influencing both filmmakers and audiences in the approach to historical and indigenous storytelling. By centering the narrative on a protagonist who operates within the physical, cultural, and spiritual realities of his environment, the film challenges conventional portrayals of historical civilizations as distant, exoticized, or purely symbolic. Instead, it presents a fully realized human world, rich in texture, emotion, and complexity. The Maya civilization, rather than serving as a backdrop, emerges as a living, breathing society with its own codes, hierarchies, and internal tensions. This immersive approach encourages viewers to appreciate the humanity of people in historical contexts, creating empathy and understanding for lives separated from contemporary experience by centuries. One of the most remarkable achievements of the film is its portrayal of communication and agency in a society without modern language conventions. Yucatec Maya, used exclusively throughout the film, forces viewers to engage visually, emotionally, and intuitively with the story. Subtitles convey literal meaning, but the emotional nuances are transmitted through gesture, facial expression, and tone. This choice enhances the universality of the narrative, demonstrating that emotion and survival instinct transcend linguistic boundaries. Audiences are compelled to interpret characters' intentions and reactions without the safety net of familiar dialogue, fostering a heightened awareness of human interaction and emotional expression. The film's portrayal of environmental mastery as a survival skill is central to its thematic depth. Jaguar Paw's intimate knowledge of the forest, rivers, and terrain underscores the symbiotic relationship between humans and their surroundings. He leverages natural features, rivers, cliffs, foliage, and even animal behavior, to outmaneuver his pursuers, emphasizing that survival is contingent upon understanding and respecting the environment. This contrasts sharply with the city sequences, where architecture, social hierarchy, and ritual replace natural intuition with imposed structure. The film, therefore, juxtaposes instinctive engagement with nature against culturally mediated survival strategies, exploring the consequences of both approaches to life and death. The forest itself is a character, not merely a setting. It breathes, reacts, and shapes the narrative through light, shadow, weather, and spatial complexity. The cinematography captures its density, unpredictability, and diversity, reinforcing the protagonist's vulnerability and ingenuity. Shots of sunlight breaking through the canopy, mist rising from riverbeds, and predators moving unseen create a dynamic, immersive world. This environmental realism elevates tension, enriches narrative stakes, and reinforces the thematic link between human ingenuity and ecological understanding. The forest tests Jaguar Paw continuously, providing both sanctuary and threat, reflecting the duality of nature as life-giving and perilous. The action sequences are carefully integrated with narrative and character development. Each chase, trap, and confrontation is designed not merely as spectacle but as a window into the protagonist's psychology, resourcefulness, and emotional stakes. The physicality of these sequences, running, climbing, swimming, and evading predators, demonstrates both human vulnerability and adaptability. The choreography balances danger, spatial clarity, and narrative tension, ensuring that each moment advances the story while heightening suspense. This meticulous integration of physical action with character and thematic development distinguishes Apocalypto from conventional adventure films, positioning it as a study of human resilience under extreme conditions. The moral and ethical dimensions of violence are consistently explored throughout the film. The hunter's systemic brutality contrasts with Jaguar Paw's defensive and calculated actions, highlighting the distinction between power exercised for domination and power exercised for protection. Ritualized sacrifice sequences underscore the societal normalization of violence within hierarchical cultures, inviting viewers to reflect on the ways in which societies structure and justify extreme behaviors. These depictions challenge audiences to engage critically with cultural context, historical interpretation, and the universality of ethical dilemmas. The narrative interrogates the ways in which fear, social expectation, and survival instincts shape human behavior, emphasizing complexity over simplicity in moral evaluation. Family and relational bonds provide the emotional core of the film. Jaguar Paw's commitment to protecting Seven and his children motivates his every action, grounding the epic-scale events in intimate stakes. Seven's own resourcefulness and courage complement his efforts, creating a dual narrative of resilience. The interplay of paternal and maternal ingenuity emphasizes that survival is multidimensional, encompassing physical skill, psychological fortitude, and relational loyalty. The depiction of familial devotion against a backdrop of environmental and societal chaos elevates the narrative beyond a standard survival story, highlighting the enduring significance of human connection. Symbolism permeates Apocalypto, reinforcing thematic depth and emotional resonance. Water represents both peril and renewal, fire embodies destruction, clarity, and transformation, animals signify instinct, spiritual guidance, and danger. Celestial events, such as the eclipse, underscore the intersection of human action with cosmic cycles. These motifs recur throughout the film, creating a narrative texture that is simultaneously literal and allegorical. The use of symbolism enhances both the visual and emotional storytelling, allowing audiences to interpret the narrative on multiple levels and deepening the impact of key scenes. The film's conclusion, with Jaguar Paw successfully reuniting with his family and choosing to retreat deeper into the forest rather than confront the approaching Europeans, reinforces the themes of autonomy, resilience, and continuity. It reflects a prioritization of relational and ethical stakes over historical inevitability, emphasizing the power of individual choice amidst broader societal forces. The birth of his child amidst these circumstances symbolizes hope, renewal, and the enduring human drive to preserve life and culture even in the face of catastrophe. The ending leaves audiences with a sense of both closure and reflection, prompting contemplation on the cyclical nature of survival, societal rise and fall, and the persistent strength of human spirit. The cultural impact of Apocalypto is far-reaching, particularly in its representation of indigenous peoples and ancient civilizations. By foregrounding the Maya world through authentic language, ritual, and environment, the film challenges the stereotypes often found in mainstream media. It presents its characters as fully realized humans, capable of humor, love, fear, courage, and ingenuity, rather than reducing them to caricatures or exoticized figures. This approach influenced later filmmakers to consider cultural depth and authenticity in historical narratives, inspiring a more immersive, respectful approach to portraying marginalized or historically underrepresented communities. The film's success demonstrated that audiences are willing to engage deeply with stories that demand attention to detail, cultural specificity, and linguistic fidelity. The production design continues to be recognized as a benchmark for historical epic filmmaking. The recreation of cityscapes, marketplaces, ceremonial spaces, and village environments involved thousands of artisans, each contributing to the film's tactile realism. The artisans replicated architectural features, murals, pottery, textiles, and weaponry based on archaeological evidence, creating spaces that felt lived in and historically grounded. These environments were not static, they were functional, allowing actors to interact with objects, climb structures, and navigate complex spaces in ways that enhanced the narrative. The attention to detail extended to the smallest elements, such as worn sandals, handmade tools, and decorative body ornaments, each contributing to the authenticity and immersive quality of the world. The cinematography in Apocalypto plays a critical role in bridging narrative, emotion, and spectacle. Dean Semler's use of dynamic camera movement, tracking shots, handheld sequences, and wide vistas, allows the audience to experience the forest, city, and rivers as living spaces. Close-up shots capture subtle emotional cues, while sweeping compositions emphasize scale and the overwhelming forces of nature or society. Lighting is employed strategically, dappled sunlight through the jungle canopy, reflections off water, and shadowed corners of the city create depth, tension, and symbolic resonance. These visual choices support both narrative clarity and thematic richness, allowing audiences to feel the immediacy of danger, the beauty of the environment, and the emotional stakes of the characters simultaneously. The editing strategy reinforces both suspense and thematic focus. Rapid cuts during chase sequences heighten urgency, while longer takes during moments of reflection allow the audience to process the stakes and emotional weight of events. This deliberate pacing ensures that viewers remain engaged while absorbing the complexity of character, environment, and story. The rhythm of the film mirrors the protagonist's psychological journey, moving between adrenaline-fueled action and contemplative observation, creating an emotional ebb and flow that mirrors real human responses to danger, fear, and hope. The portrayal of ritual and societal hierarchy is presented with both visual grandeur and emotional complexity. Sacrificial ceremonies are depicted with meticulous attention to scale, costume, and ritual action, creating a sense of awe and terror simultaneously. These sequences emphasize the power dynamics, social expectations, and religious beliefs of the civilization, while also highlighting the vulnerability and agency of individual characters. Jaguar Paw's journey through these environments demonstrates how personal courage and ingenuity can exist in opposition to systemic power, reinforcing the tension between individual and societal forces. The film invites viewers to engage critically with these cultural practices, understanding their historical context while reflecting on universal human themes of morality, power, and survival. Sound design and music continue to reinforce narrative immersion. Drums, flutes, chants, animal calls, and environmental sounds create a layered auditory experience that complements the visual storytelling. Silence is used strategically to heighten suspense, accentuate danger, or underscore moments of intimate reflection. The auditory landscape enhances the emotional depth of the film, allowing audiences to feel proximity to predators, the weight of ritualistic events, and the immersive presence of the forest. Sound becomes a narrative tool, guiding the audience's attention, amplifying tension, and reinforcing thematic contrasts between civilization and nature, ritual and survival, chaos and resilience. The film's exploration of moral choices underscores its philosophical depth. Jaguar Paw's decisions are consistently guided by love, protection, and ethical clarity, contrasting with the hunter's pursuit of power and domination. This distinction invites viewers to reflect on the nature of human ethics in extreme situations, considering how survival instincts, social pressures, and personal values intersect. The narrative demonstrates that courage and intelligence are inseparable from moral choice, and that the exercise of agency carries ethical weight even in the face of overwhelming odds. These philosophical underpinnings elevate the film beyond a simple survival story, framing it as a meditation on human nature and resilience. The universal resonance of the film's themes, survival, family, courage, adaptability, and moral integrity, ensures its enduring relevance. While set in a specific historical and cultural context, the challenges faced by Jaguar Paw and his family speak to timeless human experiences. The film's success in conveying these universal themes through a highly specific cultural lens demonstrates the power of immersive storytelling. By fully committing to authenticity and detail, the narrative achieves both emotional specificity and universal accessibility. Audiences are drawn into the world of the Maya while simultaneously reflecting on their own human experiences of fear, love, survival, and moral choice. The ending of Apocalypto, with Jaguar Paw retreating into the forest with his family, emphasizes the persistence of life and cultural continuity. The birth of his child symbolizes hope, renewal, and the continuation of lineage and knowledge. By avoiding the colonial presence of the Spanish ships, the narrative foregrounds personal agency and ethical prioritization, emphasizing that survival and protection of loved ones take precedence over engagement with incomprehensible or threatening external forces. This conclusion leaves audiences with a sense of emotional closure while simultaneously encouraging reflection on the cyclical nature of civilization, the enduring strength of human bonds, and the ways in which personal choice interacts with historical forces. The intense physical demands placed on the cast and crew during production contributed significantly to the film's authenticity. The rainforest locations, while visually stunning, presented enormous logistical and environmental challenges. Daily exposure to heat, humidity, rain, and biting insects tested endurance and determination, yet these conditions became a natural contributor to the realism portrayed on screen. The actors' exhaustion, sweat, and interactions with the terrain were genuine, not simulated, adding a tactile immediacy to the film. This level of commitment extended to stunt work, where actors performed complex sequences involving climbing, running, swimming, and combat under conditions that mirrored the dangers experienced by their characters. The physicality of the performances communicates tension, vulnerability, and resilience, making the audience viscerally aware of the stakes of survival. The attention to detail in costume and prop design reinforces the cultural authenticity and visual storytelling. Every aspect, from the intricately woven textiles to body paint, feathered adornments, and jade jewelry, was designed to convey social rank, ritual significance, or personal identity. Weapons, tools, and daily-use objects were meticulously recreated based on archaeological evidence, lending credibility to the world depicted. Even minor props were chosen for functional realism, allowing actors to interact with them naturally in action sequences and daily life scenes. This painstaking dedication ensured that the audience perceives the world as lived in and authentic, reinforcing both narrative immersion and cultural respect. The film's cinematography plays a vital role in shaping the narrative experience. Dynamic camera movement, tracking shots through dense forest, sweeping aerial views, and tight handheld sequences, immerses viewers in Jaguar Paw's perspective, emphasizing both the immediacy of danger and the scale of the natural environment. The interplay of light and shadow, particularly in forested areas, enhances suspense and visual depth, while carefully composed wide shots convey the vastness of terrain and the magnitude of societal structures. By aligning camera movement and framing with narrative tension, the filmmakers create an environment that is both aesthetically compelling and narratively functional, ensuring that the visual language reinforces the story at every moment. The soundscape further immerses the audience in the world of the film. The layered use of environmental sounds, including rustling leaves, flowing rivers, distant animal calls, and human movement, creates a living, breathing jungle. Drums, chanting, and ritualistic sounds in the city sequences contrast with the natural acoustic environment of the forest, reinforcing thematic contrasts between structured civilization and organic wilderness. Silence, strategically employed, heightens suspense or emphasizes moments of introspection, allowing the audience to inhabit the sensory reality of the characters fully. The meticulous attention to sound amplifies both emotional engagement and narrative clarity. The narrative structure of Apocalypto emphasizes the interplay between personal agency and external forces. Jaguar Paw faces constant threats from both human adversaries and environmental hazards, yet his intelligence, adaptability, and ethical focus allow him to navigate these dangers. The juxtaposition of his resourcefulness against the hunter's systematic cruelty highlights the theme of survival driven by skill, courage, and moral clarity rather than sheer strength or brute force. The forest becomes both antagonist and ally, reflecting the duality of nature as unpredictable, nurturing, and demanding. This integration of environment into narrative reinforces the film's thematic exploration of the symbiosis between humans and their surroundings. The film's depiction of ritualistic violence and societal hierarchy is both visually striking and thematically significant. Sacrificial ceremonies, hierarchical displays, and the enforcement of social order illustrate the moral and ethical frameworks of the civilization while also highlighting the tension between systemic power and individual agency. The contrast between the hunter's aggression and Jaguar Paw's defensive ingenuity underscores the ethical dimensions of human behavior under extreme circumstances. By portraying both the grandeur and the brutality of the society, the film invites viewers to consider the complexities of historical cultures, emphasizing human agency, moral choice, and the consequences of social structure. Family and relational bonds remain the emotional center of the narrative. Jaguar Paw's motivation to protect Seven and their children grounds the film's epic scale events in deeply personal stakes. Seven's ingenuity, courage, and protective instincts complement his efforts, creating a dual narrative that emphasizes resilience, cooperation, and human adaptability. The interplay between paternal and maternal forms of courage illustrates that survival is multidimensional, encompassing physical skill, strategic thinking, emotional fortitude, and relational loyalty. These intimate stakes elevate the narrative, reinforcing the universality of familial love and the enduring significance of human connection amidst extreme adversity. Symbolism is woven throughout the film, enriching narrative and thematic resonance. Water represents both threat and renewal, while fire signifies destruction, clarity, and transformation. Predators, particularly the jaguar, function as both literal danger and metaphorical guides, embodying instinct, spiritual presence, and the primal challenges of survival. Celestial events, such as the eclipse, punctuate moments of narrative climax, connecting human action to cosmic cycles. These symbolic elements operate alongside character development and environmental storytelling, creating a layered cinematic experience that engages both intellect and emotion, while reinforcing the universality of the narrative's themes. The film's conclusion emphasizes resilience, continuity, and agency. Jaguar Paw's reunion with his family, coupled with the birth of his child, symbolizes hope, renewal, and the preservation of lineage. By retreating further into the forest rather than engaging with the arriving Europeans, the narrative underscores the prioritization of family, ethical choice, and autonomy over the uncertainties of historical forces. The ending invites reflection on the cyclical nature of civilization, the enduring power of human bonds, and the capacity for individuals to shape their immediate world even amidst larger historical currents. The critical reception of Apocalypto highlighted both its strengths and the debates surrounding historical representation. Many reviewers praised the film for its audacious storytelling, immersive world building, and visceral action sequences, emphasizing its commitment to authenticity in language, costume, and environment. The choice to use Yucatec Maya exclusively was lauded as a bold and respectful decision, fostering cultural immersion and audience engagement. Critics noted that this linguistic authenticity, combined with expressive physical performance, allowed the narrative to communicate emotion, tension, and relational dynamics effectively without reliance on conventional dialogue. While some scholars debated aspects of historical accuracy, particularly regarding ritualized violence and societal depiction, the consensus acknowledged the film's power in conveying emotional truth and human experience. Audience reactions were similarly diverse yet overwhelmingly engaged. Viewers responded to the intense, immersive quality of the film, the raw physicality of the chase sequences, and the emotional depth of the central familial narrative. Many were captivated by the detailed recreation of Maya civilization, from architecture and ceremonial practice to everyday life in the village. The visceral depiction of survival against both human and environmental threats created a heightened sense of empathy and investment in Jaguar Paw's journey. This combination of spectacle and intimacy allowed the film to resonate on multiple levels, blending historical epic with universal human themes. The ethical and philosophical dimensions of the narrative are central to its enduring impact. The film explores questions of morality under extreme conditions, contrasting the self-serving cruelty of the hunters with Jaguar Paw's protective, principled actions. This distinction encourages reflection on the nature of power, the responsibilities of agency, and the ethical choices available even in survival scenarios. The narrative demonstrates that courage and intelligence must be balanced with moral clarity, suggesting that the most meaningful forms of heroism arise not from domination, but from protection, resourcefulness, and ethical resolve. These philosophical undertones elevate the story beyond adventure and action, framing it as a meditation on human nature and societal dynamics. Production anecdotes reveal the extraordinary effort required to bring this vision to life. The rainforest locations, while stunning, posed significant challenges to the cast and crew. Equipment had to be transported through dense foliage, and actors performed demanding stunts under high heat, humidity, and rain. Many sequences required precise coordination with animals, natural hazards, and complex sets, demonstrating the filmmaker's commitment to realism and tactile authenticity. Rudy Youngblood's performance as Jaguar Paw exemplifies this dedication. He trained extensively in physical conditioning, climbing, swimming, and combat to convincingly portray a character capable of surviving extreme conditions. These real-world challenges translate directly into the film's visceral energy, lending credibility and emotional resonance to every frame. The film's exploration of environmental themes is significant. The forest is not merely a backdrop but an active participant in the narrative, shaping decisions, presenting challenges, and offering refuge. Jaguar Paw's intimate understanding of terrain, rivers, and wildlife demonstrates the importance of attunement to natural forces for survival. In contrast, the city represents human-imposed order, hierarchy, and ritualized violence. This juxtaposition highlights the tension between instinctive, adaptive engagement with the environment and the rigidity of societal structures. Through this lens, the film conveys a broader meditation on the relationship between humanity and nature, emphasizing adaptability, respect, and the consequences of disconnection from ecological systems. The narrative structure interweaves personal struggle with larger societal commentary. Jaguar Paw's journey is immediate and intimate, focusing on familial survival, yet it simultaneously reflects broader historical and civilizational themes. The approach humanizes historical narratives, demonstrating how individual courage, ingenuity, and moral decision-making operate within, and in response to, larger forces. The story emphasizes that while historical events may shape the world, the actions of individuals remain meaningful, capable of influencing outcomes and preserving life, culture, and ethical values. This dual focus ensures that the film resonates on both personal and universal levels. The visual storytelling extends beyond composition to incorporate symbolic motifs that reinforce thematic depth. Water, fire, animals, and celestial events function as metaphors, reflecting danger, transformation, guidance, and the cyclical nature of life. The recurrence of these motifs provides cohesion across narrative sequences, linking personal action to broader existential realities. This symbolic layering encourages audiences to interpret the story both literally and allegorically, enriching the cinematic experience. By blending visceral action with layered symbolism, Apocalypto achieves a narrative complexity rarely seen in mainstream adventure cinema. Family, relational bonds, and human connection remain central to the emotional resonance of the film. Jaguar Paw and Seven's interactions highlight the duality of resilience, physical ingenuity and maternal resourcefulness. Their combined efforts underscore the multidimensional nature of survival, encompassing courage, intelligence, emotional strength, and ethical clarity. These personal stakes anchor the narrative, providing an intimate counterpoint to the epic-scale dangers of the forest, city, and historical forces, and ensuring that audiences are emotionally invested in the protagonist's journey. The interplay between human ingenuity and environmental mastery is central to Apocalypto's narrative. Jaguar Paw's survival depends not only on physical strength but also on his capacity to observe, adapt, and anticipate both human and natural threats. He manipulates the terrain, using rivers, cliffs, foliage, and predator behavior, to evade pursuers and secure the safety of his family. This dynamic underscores the broader theme of intelligence as a survival mechanism, illustrating that knowledge of one's environment and the ability to make strategic choices are as crucial as physical prowess. The forest itself becomes an interactive partner, offering refuge, presenting challenges, and testing the protagonist's skill and resolve at every turn. The action sequences are meticulously crafted to serve narrative and character development rather than mere spectacle. Chases through the dense jungle, climbs along precarious cliffs, and confrontations with predators are choreographed to highlight Jaguar Paw's resourcefulness and the consequences of human ingenuity. Each sequence conveys the stakes of survival while simultaneously revealing the psychological and emotional state of the protagonist. These sequences are enhanced by precise camera movement, maintaining spatial clarity while heightening suspense and immersing the audience in the protagonist's point of view. The result is a seamless integration of action, narrative, and character, creating a cinematic experience that is both thrilling and emotionally compelling. The film's depiction of ritual and societal hierarchy contributes to its thematic richness. Sacrificial ceremonies and hierarchical displays illustrate the power structures within the Maya civilization, emphasizing the systemic nature of violence and control. These sequences provide a stark contrast to Jaguar Paw's morally guided actions, highlighting the tension between individual ethics and institutionalized authority. By portraying both the majesty and brutality of the society, the film invites audiences to engage critically with historical and ethical questions, exploring how human societies enforce rules, manage power, and navigate moral complexity. This nuanced portrayal encourages reflection on both historical cultures and contemporary social dynamics. Sound and music in Apocalypto function as immersive narrative tools. The layered auditory environment, comprising rustling leaves, flowing rivers, distant animal calls, human movement, drums, and chanting, creates a living, breathing world. Strategic use of silence amplifies suspense, emotional tension, and narrative focus. The soundscape complements visual storytelling, enhancing the immersive experience and reinforcing the emotional stakes of each scene. Music, both diegetic and non-diegetic, conveys cultural specificity and deepens the audience's engagement with the film's spiritual and ritualistic dimensions. Together, visual and auditory elements create a cohesive cinematic universe that is both authentic and emotionally resonant. The ethical dimension of survival permeates the narrative. Jaguar Paw's decisions are guided by protection, courage, and moral clarity, contrasting sharply with the hunter's pursuit of power and domination. This distinction emphasizes that heroism is defined not merely by strength or skill but by ethical application of intelligence and agency. The film demonstrates that survival involves not only physical endurance but also moral discernment, illustrating how individuals navigate the complex interplay of personal values, societal pressures, and environmental challenges. This exploration of ethics elevates Apocalypto beyond conventional adventure storytelling, framing it as a meditation on human responsibility and moral choice under duress. Family and relational bonds remain the emotional core of the film. Jaguar Paw's determination to safeguard Seven and their children drives the narrative, grounding epic-scale events in deeply personal stakes. Seven's ingenuity and courage complement his efforts, highlighting the duality of survival strategies, combining physical skill, strategic thinking, emotional fortitude, and relational loyalty. These intimate connections provide the audience with a consistent emotional anchor, reinforcing universal themes of love, resilience, and the enduring importance of human bonds. Through these relationships, the film conveys that survival is not merely an individual endeavor but a collaborative and ethical undertaking. Symbolism reinforces narrative and thematic complexity. Water represents both peril and renewal, fire embodies destruction and clarity, animals serve as guides and metaphors for instinct and danger, and celestial events connect human actions to cosmic cycles. These recurring motifs provide cohesion across the narrative, linking individual choices, environmental challenges, and societal forces. Symbolism operates alongside character development and environmental storytelling, encouraging audiences to interpret the film on multiple levels and enhancing the depth of the cinematic experience. By integrating symbolic, emotional, and narrative elements, Apocalypto achieves a richness rarely seen in mainstream adventure cinema. The conclusion underscores resilience, continuity, and human agency. Jaguar Paw's reunion with his family, coupled with the birth of his child, symbolizes hope and the preservation of life and culture. By choosing to retreat further into the forest rather than engage with the approaching Europeans, the narrative foregrounds ethical decision-making, autonomy, and familial priorities over historical inevitability. This ending encourages reflection on the cyclical nature of civilization, the enduring strength of human relationships, and the capacity of individuals to assert meaningful agency even amidst broader social and environmental forces. It provides emotional closure while leaving space for contemplation of universal human experiences and survival strategies. The lasting cultural significance of Apocalypto lies in its ability to portray an indigenous civilization with dignity, complexity, and emotional depth. By focusing on authentic language, detailed cultural practices, and immersive environmental storytelling, the film offers audiences a nuanced vision of the Maya civilization that goes beyond stereotypes and simplified narratives. The characters are presented as fully realized human beings, capable of humor, love, fear, ingenuity, and courage, rather than as exoticized or symbolic figures. This approach has inspired filmmakers and scholars to reconsider how historical and indigenous narratives are represented in cinema, emphasizing immersive authenticity, cultural respect, and narrative engagement over superficial spectacle. The production design remains a benchmark for historical epic filmmaking. Entire cityscapes, marketplaces, ceremonial grounds, and village structures were meticulously constructed, with attention to architectural detail, historical accuracy, and functionality. Textiles, tools, pottery, weapons, and ornaments were reproduced based on archaeological evidence, allowing actors to interact naturally with their environment. Even minor props were designed to support realism, ensuring that every element contributed to the sense of a lived-in, dynamic world. This level of detail enhanced both narrative immersion and visual authenticity, reinforcing the audience's sense of entering a fully realized civilization rather than a set or studio reconstruction. Cinematography plays a pivotal role in shaping the film's immersive experience. The camera captures the forest, rivers, and city environments with dynamic movement, fluid tracking shots, and carefully composed wide vistas, drawing viewers into the protagonist's perspective. Close-ups highlight emotional nuance, while aerial and wide shots convey the vastness of terrain and the complexity of architectural structures. Light and shadow are employed strategically, particularly in forest sequences, to create suspense, texture, and symbolic resonance. The visual language is consistently aligned with narrative and thematic priorities, ensuring that every shot communicates both story and emotional weight while enhancing the viewer's sense of immersion. The editing of the film reinforces narrative rhythm and emotional impact. Rapid cuts during chase sequences heighten tension, while longer takes during reflective or suspenseful moments allow audiences to process stakes and character decisions. The juxtaposition of fast-paced action with measured observation mirrors the psychological and emotional experience of the protagonist, creating a rhythm that engages viewers and sustains suspense. Editing also facilitates clarity during complex sequences, such as pursuit through dense jungle or multi-layered city action, ensuring spatial and narrative coherence while maximizing emotional engagement. Sound design and music are integral to narrative immersion. Layered environmental sounds, including rustling leaves, flowing water, distant animal calls, and human movement, create a rich auditory landscape. Drums, chanting, and ritualistic music in city sequences contrast with the natural soundscape of the forest, reinforcing thematic distinctions between civilization and wilderness. Strategic use of silence amplifies suspense, emotional tension, and narrative focus, heightening the audience's engagement with both character and environment. The auditory dimension functions in concert with visual storytelling, creating a cohesive sensory experience that deepens narrative immersion. The ethical framework of the narrative emphasizes the importance of moral clarity amidst survival challenges. Jaguar Paw's actions are guided by protection, resourcefulness, and courage, contrasting with the systemic cruelty and power-driven aggression of the hunters. This distinction invites reflection on human behavior under extreme circumstances, exploring the balance between instinct, strategy, and ethical responsibility. The film underscores that heroism emerges not from dominance or brutality but from intelligent, principled action, emphasizing the enduring significance of moral agency even in life-or-death situations. Family bonds and relational dynamics are central to the emotional resonance of the story. Jaguar Paw's determination to protect Seven and their children anchors the narrative, providing intimate stakes within epic-scale events. Seven's courage, resourcefulness, and maternal instinct complement his efforts, highlighting the multidimensional nature of survival. The narrative demonstrates that human resilience is not solely individual but relational, requiring collaboration, loyalty, and shared courage. These interpersonal stakes ensure that the audience remains emotionally invested in the outcome of the narrative, reinforcing universal themes of love, protection, and the enduring power of family. Symbolism in Apocalypto enriches both narrative and thematic complexity. Water functions as a metaphor for both danger and renewal, fire symbolizes destruction and revelation, predators represent instinctual guidance and threat, and celestial phenomena link human action to cosmic cycles. These recurring motifs provide cohesion and resonance throughout the story, connecting individual choices, environmental challenges, and societal structures. Symbolism operates alongside character development and environmental storytelling, enhancing the depth and interpretive richness of the film and encouraging audiences to engage with multiple layers of meaning. The ending emphasizes resilience, continuity, and ethical agency. Jaguar Paw's reunion with his family and the birth of his child symbolize hope, renewal, and the preservation of life and culture. By choosing to retreat into the forest rather than confront the Spanish ships, the film foregrounds ethical decision-making, personal autonomy, and the protection of loved ones over engagement with unpredictable external forces. This conclusion provides emotional closure while inviting reflection on the cyclical nature of human societies, the enduring power of familial bonds, and the capacity of individuals to shape meaningful outcomes even amidst broader historical and environmental pressures. The enduring influence of Apocalypto can be seen in the way it reshaped audience expectations for historical and survival narratives. By prioritizing cultural authenticity, immersive environmental storytelling, and intense physical performance, the film demonstrated that mainstream audiences are receptive to stories told through non-traditional languages and perspectives. Its success challenged conventional Hollywood formulas, proving that a story rooted in a specific historical and cultural context can resonate universally when grounded in emotional truth, human struggle, and compelling visual storytelling. Filmmakers and scholars alike have noted the film's contribution to redefining historical epics, encouraging more nuanced, respectful, and immersive portrayals of indigenous cultures. The physical and emotional rigor demanded of the cast contributed to the film's visceral realism. Actors performed under extreme environmental conditions, navigating dense jungle terrain, rivers, cliffs, and rain-soaked landscapes. Stunts were executed with minimal use of doubles, emphasizing authenticity in movement, risk, and emotional response. Rudy Youngblood's performance as Jaguar Paw exemplifies this commitment, as his portrayal required sustained physical exertion, agility, and emotional intensity, capturing the desperation, cunning, and resilience of a man fighting to protect his family. This embodiment of the character enhances audience immersion, making each encounter with natural and human threats feel immediate and consequential. Production design reinforced the film's historical credibility. The meticulous recreation of Maya villages, urban centers, ceremonial spaces, and everyday life provided a living backdrop that actors could inhabit fully. Archaeologically informed costumes, weaponry, tools, and ornaments added tactile authenticity, while functional sets allowed for natural interaction during action sequences. Attention to detail extended to smaller elements, such as handcrafted baskets, pottery, and textiles, ensuring that every component of the environment contributed to narrative immersion. The commitment to functional, historically grounded design distinguishes Apocalypto from conventional set-driven productions, offering audiences a tangible sense of the past as an active, lived reality. Cinematography, led by Dean Semler, played a critical role in connecting narrative, emotion, and environment. Dynamic tracking shots, handheld sequences, and wide compositions immerse viewers in Jaguar Paw's perspective while conveying the scale and complexity of his surroundings. Close-ups capture subtle emotional nuances, while panoramic views emphasize spatial relationships and environmental hazards. The interplay of light and shadow, particularly within the dense forest canopy, creates tension, texture, and symbolic resonance. These visual strategies ensure that every scene communicates both the immediate stakes of survival and the broader thematic concerns of human resilience, morality, and interaction with the natural world. The editing reinforces narrative rhythm and psychological immersion. Rapid cuts during pursuit sequences heighten tension, while extended takes during moments of suspense, reflection, or ritual allow audiences to absorb stakes and character dynamics. The pacing mirrors the protagonist's experience, moving fluidly between urgency and contemplation. Spatial clarity during complex sequences is maintained, ensuring that viewers remain oriented even as tension escalates. This balance of rhythm, clarity, and immersion underscores the film's careful craftsmanship and reinforces its emotional impact. Sound design and musical composition enhance the sensory experience and narrative depth. Environmental sounds, rustling leaves, flowing rivers, predator calls, and human activity, create a dynamic auditory landscape. Drums, chanting, and ritualistic music in urban sequences contrast with the forest soundscape, emphasizing thematic distinctions between civilization and wilderness. Silence is employed strategically, heightening suspense, emotional resonance, and narrative focus. The auditory environment is not simply supportive, it is integral to storytelling, guiding audience attention, amplifying tension, and reinforcing thematic contrasts. Ethical considerations are central to the film's narrative. Jaguar Paw's choices, driven by protection, strategy, and moral clarity, contrast sharply with the hunter's opportunistic violence. This juxtaposition emphasizes that heroism emerges not merely from physical capability but from the ethical application of intelligence and agency. The narrative explores how individuals navigate morality under extreme conditions, illustrating the intersection of instinct, survival, and ethical decision-making. This philosophical layer adds depth to the film, framing it as a meditation on human nature, societal structure, and personal responsibility. Family and relational bonds provide emotional grounding. Jaguar Paw's commitment to safeguarding Seven and their children creates high personal stakes within an epic-scale adventure. Seven's courage, resourcefulness, and maternal intuition complement his efforts, demonstrating the multidimensional nature of survival. Together, they exemplify how resilience is relational, combining physical skill, intelligence, and emotional support. These bonds anchor the narrative, ensuring that the audience remains invested not only in the suspense of pursuit but also in the enduring human themes of love, loyalty, and protection. Symbolism deepens narrative and thematic resonance. Water, fire, predators, and celestial phenomena function as metaphors, connecting character actions to broader existential realities. Recurring motifs reinforce cohesion across narrative sequences, linking personal choice, environmental challenges, and societal forces. Symbolism complements the realistic visual and physical storytelling, offering interpretive layers that invite audiences to reflect on both literal and metaphorical dimensions of survival, human ethics, and cultural continuity. The ending reinforces themes of resilience, hope, and agency. Jaguar Paw's successful reunion with his family, coupled with the birth of his child, symbolizes continuity, renewal, and the preservation of life and culture. Retreating into the forest rather than confronting the Spanish ships underscores ethical prioritization, autonomy, and familial protection over external historical pressures. This conclusion encourages reflection on the cyclical nature of civilizations, the enduring power of human bonds, and the capacity for individuals to assert meaningful agency even amidst overwhelming forces, providing both emotional closure and contemplative resonance. The production of Apocalypto was a monumental undertaking that required not only artistic vision but also logistical precision. Filming in remote rainforest locations posed extraordinary challenges, from transporting equipment and crew through dense vegetation to ensuring the safety of cast members performing physically demanding stunts. These environments, while challenging, became integral to the film's authenticity, as actors navigated real rivers, cliffs, and forests rather than simulated studio sets. The immersive quality of these locations is heightened by the unpredictability of natural conditions, rain, mud, and wildlife, which informed performance, timing, and camera work, creating a visceral sense of realism that resonates throughout the film. The actor's dedication was essential in bringing the narrative to life. Rudy Youngblood, portraying Jaguar Paw, underwent rigorous physical training, mastering climbing, swimming, and combat techniques to convincingly depict a character capable of surviving extreme threats. His performance combines athleticism with emotional depth, conveying desperation, courage, and moral integrity. Supporting actors, particularly those portraying family members and villagers, contributed layers of authenticity through their physical performances, facial expressions, and interaction with the environment. The combination of skilled acting and challenging natural settings amplifies the sense of immediacy, allowing audiences to experience danger, tension, and emotional stakes alongside the characters. Production design contributed significantly to the film's cultural and visual authenticity. Entire village settings, urban centers, marketplaces, and ceremonial spaces were recreated based on archaeological and historical research. Costumes, ornaments, tools, and weaponry were meticulously crafted to reflect historical accuracy and functional utility. Attention to minute details, such as woven textiles, pottery, and handmade implements, ensured that each prop and set piece reinforced the sense of a lived-in world. The design choices allowed actors to interact naturally with their surroundings, enhancing the believability of the environment and supporting the narrative's immersive quality. Cinematography under Dean Semler's direction enhances both visual storytelling and thematic resonance. Tracking shots through dense foliage, wide panoramic views of urban landscapes, and intimate close-ups of characters' faces convey the scale, danger, and emotional intensity of each scene. Light and shadow are used deliberately to create texture, mood, and symbolic resonance. The forest sequences, with dappled sunlight piercing the canopy and mist rising from rivers, evoke both beauty and threat, reflecting the duality of nature as sanctuary and challenge. These visual strategies ensure that audiences are emotionally and psychologically invested in Jaguar Paw's journey while simultaneously appreciating the grandeur and peril of his environment. The film's editing supports narrative clarity, suspense, and emotional rhythm. Rapid cuts during chase sequences heighten tension and urgency, while extended takes during reflective or suspenseful moments allow audiences to absorb stakes, character dynamics, and environmental complexity. The alternation between fast-paced action and slower, contemplative sequences mirrors the psychological and emotional journey of the protagonist, creating a rhythm that enhances both immersion and narrative coherence. The editing choices emphasize the stakes of survival while maintaining clarity and continuity across complex sequences. Sound design and music function as integral components of storytelling. The layered environmental sounds, such as rustling leaves, flowing rivers, distant predators, and human activity, create a living, breathing world. Ritualistic drumming, chanting, and ceremonial music in urban sequences contrast with the natural soundscape of the forest, reinforcing thematic distinctions between civilization and wilderness. Strategic use of silence heightens suspense, underscores emotional intensity, and draws attention to key narrative moments. Together, sound and visual storytelling create a cohesive, immersive experience that communicates narrative, theme, and emotion simultaneously. The ethical and philosophical dimensions of the film are central to its narrative power. Jaguar Paw's actions, driven by protection, ingenuity, and moral clarity, contrast with the hunter's violent opportunism. This juxtaposition emphasizes that heroism is defined not by raw strength but by ethical and intelligent action under extreme circumstances. The film explores how individuals navigate morality, survival instincts, and societal pressures, offering a meditation on human nature, personal responsibility, and ethical decision-making. These layers elevate Apocalypto beyond a conventional adventure or survival story, situating it within broader reflections on human behavior and moral agency. Family and relational bonds provide the emotional core of the narrative. Jaguar Paw's determination to protect Seven and their children grounds the story in intimate stakes. Seven's courage, intelligence, and maternal resourcefulness complement his actions, demonstrating that survival is relational as well as individual. Their combined efforts illustrate the multidimensional nature of resilience, encompassing physical skill, emotional strength, strategic thinking, and ethical commitment. These personal stakes anchor the narrative, ensuring that audiences are emotionally invested in the survival of the family as a unit, reinforcing universal human themes of love, loyalty, and protection. Symbolism enriches both narrative and thematic layers. Water represents danger and renewal, fire signifies destruction and revelation, predators symbolize instinct, guidance, and threat, and celestial phenomena connect human action to cosmic cycles. Recurring motifs link individual choices, environmental conditions, and societal structures, providing cohesion and interpretive depth. Symbolism complements the physical and visual storytelling, inviting audiences to reflect on multiple layers of meaning, from immediate survival to broader questions of human morality, continuity, and the interplay between nature and society. The conclusion reinforces resilience, continuity, and hope. Jaguar Paw's reunion with his family and the birth of his child symbolize renewal and the preservation of life and culture. By retreating into the forest rather than engaging the Spanish ships, the narrative emphasizes ethical choice, personal autonomy, and the protection of loved ones over engagement with historical inevitabilities. This ending provides emotional closure while encouraging reflection on the enduring power of human bonds, the cyclical nature of societies, and the capacity of individuals to exert agency and moral judgment even under overwhelming pressures. The audience reception of Apocalypto highlighted both its immersive quality and its bold storytelling choices. Viewers responded positively to the intense realism, authentic use of Yucatec Maya language, and a visceral depiction of survival in a complex natural and societal environment. Many were captivated by the film's capacity to convey emotion, tension, and cultural depth without relying on conventional English dialogue. This approach challenged typical audience expectations, demonstrating that a story deeply rooted in historical and cultural specificity can resonate universally when guided by emotional truth, human struggle, and compelling visual storytelling. The reaction underscored the audience's willingness to engage with narratives that demand attention, interpretation, and empathy. Critical response reflected both admiration and debate. Reviewers praised the film for its audacious storytelling, technical achievement, and intense physical realism. Cinematography, production design, and sound design were particularly lauded for creating a fully immersive environment, while Rudy Youngblood's performance received recognition for conveying physical prowess, emotional nuance, and ethical depth. Some scholars debated aspects of historical accuracy, especially concerning ritualized violence and societal representation, yet the consensus acknowledged the film's ability to communicate emotional and cultural authenticity. This dialogue between artistic interpretation and historical scholarship enriched discussions about the film's place in both cinematic and academic contexts. The film's cultural significance extends beyond its immediate reception. By portraying the Maya civilization with dignity, complexity, and depth, Apocalypto challenged prevailing stereotypes and contributed to a broader understanding of indigenous history. It presented characters as humans with agency, emotion, and intelligence rather than as static, exoticized figures. This respectful approach to historical storytelling influenced subsequent filmmakers, encouraging immersive, culturally informed narratives that balance spectacle with authenticity. The film's impact is evident in its continued use as a reference for storytelling that prioritizes cultural integrity, environmental engagement, and moral complexity. Production anecdotes reveal the extraordinary effort involved in bringing Apocalypto to life. Remote rainforest locations required careful planning for equipment transport, safety, and logistics. The cast performed physically demanding stunts in challenging natural conditions, including rivers, cliffs, and dense vegetation, which enhanced realism and conveyed genuine danger. The design and construction of village, urban, and ceremonial settings were informed by archaeological evidence, ensuring that every set, prop, and costume contributed to narrative authenticity. Actors' performances, combined with these immersive environments, created a cinematic experience that feels both immediate and historically grounded. Thematic richness is amplified through the integration of environment, action, and ethical dilemmas. Jaguar Paw's survival is a function not only of physical skill but of intelligence, observation, and ethical decision-making. The forest operates as both obstacle and ally, shaping choices, testing skill, and offering refuge. Urban sequences highlight hierarchical structures, ritualized violence, and societal norms, creating a contrast with instinctive survival in nature. This interplay underscores the film's exploration of human adaptability, moral agency, and the tension between natural instinct and socially imposed structures. The narrative demonstrates that survival is a multidimensional endeavor requiring physical, emotional, and ethical intelligence. Cinematography reinforces thematic and emotional depth. Tracking shots, aerial views, and close-ups immerse audiences in Jaguar Paw's perspective, emphasizing both danger and spatial complexity. The use of natural light, shadows, and atmospheric conditions enhances realism and symbolic resonance, particularly in forest sequences where sunlight, mist, and foliage convey both threat and beauty. Visual storytelling complements narrative and emotional arcs, ensuring that each frame communicates tension, character development, and thematic significance. The cinematographic choices enable audiences to experience both the physical and psychological dimensions of survival alongside the protagonist. Sound design and music further enhance immersion. Environmental sounds, river currents, rustling leaves, predator calls, and human activity, create a living, dynamic world. Ritualistic drumming and ceremonial chants in urban sequences contrast with natural soundscapes, emphasizing thematic differences between civilization and wilderness. Strategic silence heightens suspense, emotional intensity, and narrative focus. This auditory layering complements visual storytelling, creating a multisensory experience that reinforces narrative clarity, emotional engagement, and thematic cohesion. Ethical and philosophical considerations remain central. The juxtaposition of Jaguar Paw's protective, principled actions with the hunter's opportunistic violence illustrates the complexity of human morality under extreme conditions. Heroism is framed not as dominance or aggression but as intelligent, ethical, and courageous action. This exploration of moral choice enhances narrative depth, framing the story as a meditation on human responsibility, agency, and ethical survival. Audiences are invited to reflect on how values, instinct, and circumstance intersect in shaping individual and collective behavior. Symbolism in Apocalypto is woven intricately throughout the narrative, enriching both its visual and thematic impact. Water, depicted through rivers, rain, and natural streams, functions as a dual symbol. It represents both danger and refuge, serving as a conduit for escape while simultaneously testing the protagonist's skill and resilience. Fire symbolizes destruction, revelation, and transformation, punctuating moments of intense conflict and narrative turning points. Predators, particularly jaguars, serve as metaphors for instinct, guidance, and the primal challenges of survival, reflecting the close interplay between humans and nature. Celestial events, including the eclipse, connect human action to cosmic cycles, emphasizing the universality of existential forces and the temporal rhythm of civilizations. These symbols operate alongside the physical narrative, deepening audience engagement and encouraging interpretive reflection on survival, morality, and continuity. The film's exploration of human resilience and adaptability is central to its thematic core. Jaguar Paw's journey demonstrates that survival requires more than physical strength. It demands intelligence, observation, creativity, and moral clarity. By navigating complex environmental challenges, evading human predators, and making ethical choices under duress, he embodies the multidimensional nature of resilience. This focus on adaptive strategy underscores the broader philosophical notion that human ingenuity, when aligned with ethical action, is the ultimate determinant of endurance and continuity. The narrative communicates that survival is not merely a contest of force but a sophisticated interplay of skill, insight, and moral agency. Family, relational bonds, and emotional loyalty anchor the film's epic narrative. Jaguar Paw's commitment to safeguarding Seven and their children provides the emotional stakes that drive the story. Seven's courage, intelligence, and maternal resourcefulness complement Jaguar Paw's ingenuity, illustrating that resilience is relational as well as individual. These intimate connections reinforce universal human themes, emphasizing the importance of love, cooperation, and ethical responsibility in survival. By foregrounding family, the narrative humanizes the epic struggle, ensuring that audience engagement is rooted not just in spectacle but in empathy and emotional investment. The ethical framework of the narrative remains consistently emphasized through character action and consequence. Jaguar Paw's decisions, guided by a sense of protection, justice, and foresight, contrast sharply with the hunter's opportunistic cruelty, highlighting the moral dimensions of heroism. The film suggests that ethical choices are inseparable from survival, intelligence and courage are insufficient without moral clarity. This exploration of morality under extreme conditions invites audiences to consider the intersection of instinct, strategy, and ethical reasoning, reinforcing the film's philosophical depth and humanistic perspective. Cinematography and visual composition continue to serve thematic and narrative purposes. Dean Semler's use of dynamic camera movement, combined with wide shots, tracking sequences, and close-ups, immerses viewers in Jaguar Paw's perspective and the perils of his environment. The interplay of light and shadow, particularly within forested sequences, conveys mood, tension, and symbolic significance. Wide vistas communicate the scale and complexity of the natural and human-made worlds, while intimate framing captures emotional nuance. This visual strategy ensures that every frame contributes to storytelling, emotional resonance, and thematic depth. Sound design and music reinforce the immersive qualities of the film. The auditory landscape blends environmental sounds, animal calls, human activity, and ritualistic music to create a dynamic, sensory-rich world. Silence is used strategically to heighten suspense, accentuate danger, or underscore moments of reflection. This careful orchestration of sound complements visual and narrative elements, creating a cohesive and emotionally resonant cinematic experience that draws audiences fully into the narrative world. The conclusion of Apocalypto emphasizes resilience, hope, and continuity. Jaguar Paw's successful reunion with his family, combined with the birth of his child, symbolizes renewal, cultural preservation, and the perpetuation of life. The choice to retreat into the forest rather than engage with external colonial forces highlights ethical prioritization, autonomy, and protection of loved ones. This ending reinforces the narrative's philosophical themes, suggesting that moral action, relational loyalty, and adaptive intelligence define the ultimate measure of human survival. It provides both emotional closure and space for contemplation on the cyclical nature of civilizations, human agency, and enduring cultural values. The lasting legacy of Apocalypto lies in its contribution to historical storytelling, cinematic technique, and cultural discourse. By depicting the Maya civilization with depth, authenticity, and emotional resonance, the film challenged prevailing stereotypes and set a new standard for immersive, culturally respectful epic narratives. Its integration of intense physicality, visual sophistication, sound design, and philosophical reflection demonstrates the power of cinema to convey complex human experiences and ethical questions. Filmmakers, scholars, and audiences continue to engage with its narrative, production techniques, and thematic richness, confirming its enduring significance as both a cinematic and cultural milestone. The meticulous approach to production design in Apocalypto played a crucial role in creating an immersive historical environment. Entire villages, urban centers, ceremonial spaces, and marketplaces were painstakingly constructed with attention to functionality and historical accuracy. Artisans and designers based their work on extensive archaeological and anthropological research, ensuring that architecture, tools, weaponry, and daily use objects reflected the practices of the Maya civilization. Even minor details, such as woven baskets, pottery, and ornamental body decorations, were designed to enhance realism and narrative coherence. These environments allowed actors to inhabit the space naturally, reinforcing the authenticity of their performances and creating a fully realized cinematic world that engages audiences visually, emotionally, and intellectually. The physical demands placed on the cast were extraordinary and contributed significantly to the film's visceral realism. Actors performed in dense jungles, on slippery riverbanks, and along steep cliffs, often under harsh environmental conditions including heat, humidity, and rain. Stunt sequences were executed with minimal reliance on doubles, emphasizing authenticity in movement and risk. Rudy Youngblood's portrayal of Jaguar Paw combined athleticism, agility, and emotional depth, conveying both physical endurance and psychological resilience. Supporting actors, portraying family members and villagers, brought nuanced performances that emphasized relational dynamics, survival instincts, and cultural authenticity. This dedication to performance under real conditions heightened the film's sense of immediacy and danger, making the audience acutely aware of the stakes faced by the characters. Cinematography under Dean Semler's direction enhanced both storytelling and thematic expression. Dynamic tracking shots, aerial perspectives, and intimate close-ups immerse viewers in Jaguar Paw's perspective and the environment's challenges. Light and shadow are carefully manipulated to convey tension, texture, and symbolic resonance, particularly in forest sequences where sunlight filtering through the canopy creates both beauty and foreboding. Wide vistas emphasize scale, complexity, and the relationship between human and natural worlds, while close-ups capture the emotional subtlety of character responses. These visual strategies ensure that each frame communicates narrative tension, character psychology, and thematic depth simultaneously. The editing of Apocalypto supports the film's rhythm, suspense, and psychological immersion. Rapid cuts during chase sequences amplify urgency and peril, while extended takes during moments of reflection, suspense, or ritual allow audiences to absorb narrative stakes and environmental complexity. The pacing mirrors the protagonist's experience, alternating between moments of extreme physical exertion and contemplation. This balance ensures spatial clarity during complex sequences while maintaining emotional engagement and narrative coherence, allowing the audience to experience both the intensity of pursuit and the nuances of character development. Sound design and musical composition further deepen immersion. The layered auditory environment, comprising rustling foliage, flowing water, animal calls, and human activity, creates a living, breathing world. Drums, chanting, and ceremonial music contrast with the natural soundscape of the forest, emphasizing thematic distinctions between civilization and wilderness. Strategic silence enhances suspense, underscores tension, and draws attention to key narrative moments. The integration of sound with visual and narrative elements reinforces the audience's emotional and sensory engagement, making the film a fully immersive cinematic experience. Ethical and philosophical considerations permeate the narrative. Jaguar Paw's protective, principled decisions contrast sharply with the hunter's self-serving brutality, emphasizing that true heroism is defined by moral integrity as well as intelligence and skill. The film explores how individuals navigate survival, ethical responsibility, and societal constraints under extreme conditions, offering a meditation on human nature, agency, and the consequences of moral choice. This ethical framework elevates the story beyond a simple survival adventure, positioning it as a reflection on universal questions of morality, courage, and the human condition. Family and relational bonds anchor the emotional stakes of the film. Jaguar Paw's determination to protect Seven and their children emphasizes relational resilience, while Seven's intelligence, courage, and maternal ingenuity complement his efforts. These dynamics illustrate that survival is not only an individual endeavor but also a relational process requiring cooperation, loyalty, and mutual support. The audience's investment in these relationships ensures emotional engagement, heightening suspense and deepening the impact of the narrative's climactic moments. Symbolism enriches the film's narrative and thematic complexity. Water represents both danger and renewal, fire embodies destruction and revelation, predators symbolize instinctual guidance and threat, and celestial events connect human action to cosmic cycles. These recurring motifs provide cohesion across narrative sequences, linking character choices, environmental challenges, and societal structures. Symbolism operates alongside physical and visual storytelling, inviting audiences to reflect on multiple layers of meaning, from immediate survival to broader considerations of morality, continuity, and the human relationship with nature. The conclusion emphasizes resilience, continuity, and hope. Jaguar Paw's reunion with his family and the birth of his child symbolize renewal, preservation, and the perpetuation of life and culture. By choosing to retreat into the forest rather than confront external colonial forces, the narrative foregrounds ethical decision-making, personal autonomy, and familial protection. This ending provides both emotional closure and philosophical resonance, encouraging reflection on the cyclical nature of civilizations, the enduring power of human bonds, and the capacity of individuals to exert meaningful agency even amidst overwhelming forces. The critical acclaim for Apocalypto focused on its audacious storytelling, technical excellence, and immersive realism. Reviewers highlighted the film's ability to convey intense emotion, narrative tension, and cultural depth without relying on English dialogue, noting the bold decision to present the story entirely in Yucatec Maya. This linguistic authenticity contributed to a heightened sense of immersion, allowing audiences to experience the world of the Maya civilization in a direct and emotionally engaging manner. Critics praised the cinematography, production design, and sound design, emphasizing how these elements collectively created a visually stunning and sensorially rich environment that enhanced both narrative and thematic impact. While some debated aspects of historical accuracy, particularly regarding depictions of ritual violence and societal hierarchy, the overall reception acknowledged the film's success in capturing emotional and experiential truth. Audience response mirrored critical perspectives, with viewers drawn to the film's visceral intensity, immersive environments, and compelling human drama. Many were captivated by the chase sequences, the intricacies of the forest environment, and the depth of the protagonist's moral and emotional journey. The combination of suspenseful action, family-centered stakes, and cultural authenticity resonated widely, demonstrating that audiences can engage deeply with narratives rooted in specific historical and cultural contexts. The film's success in connecting viewers emotionally to a historical civilization underscored the universal appeal of stories that explore human resilience, morality, and relational bonds. The cultural significance of Apocalypto extends beyond its immediate cinematic impact. By portraying the Maya civilization with nuance, complexity, and dignity, the film challenged long-standing stereotypes and contributed to a broader understanding of indigenous cultures. Characters are presented as fully realized humans, capable of humor, love, fear, intelligence, and courage, rather than as exoticized or one-dimensional figures. This approach influenced filmmakers and scholars, encouraging more culturally respectful, immersive, and nuanced representations of historical societies. The film's success demonstrated that mainstream audiences are receptive to narratives grounded in authenticity and humanistic storytelling, setting a precedent for future historical epics and survival dramas. Production insights reveal the extraordinary effort required to realize the film's vision. Filming in remote rainforest locations necessitated careful planning for transportation, safety, and logistical support. The challenging natural conditions, dense vegetation, rivers, cliffs, heat, and rain, enhanced realism but demanded extreme physical exertion from the cast and crew. Stunt sequences were performed largely without doubles, emphasizing authenticity in movement, risk, and emotional response. Production design, including architecture, costumes, props, and ceremonial spaces, was informed by extensive historical research, ensuring that every detail contributed to the film's immersive quality. This combination of rigorous research, physical performance, and environmental authenticity reinforced the narrative's credibility and audience engagement. Thematic depth is central to the film's enduring impact. Apocalypto explores human resilience, adaptability, ethical choice, and relational loyalty against the backdrop of environmental and societal challenges. Jaguar Paw's journey emphasizes that survival requires intelligence, observation, creativity, and moral clarity, rather than mere physical strength. The forest functions as both obstacle and ally, shaping choices and testing skill, while urban sequences highlight hierarchical structures and ritualized practices, creating thematic contrasts between instinctive survival and organized civilization. This exploration underscores the film's meditation on human adaptability, ethical agency, and the balance between nature and society. Symbolism further enriches the narrative. Water, fire, predators, and celestial events operate as recurring motifs that connect personal action, environmental forces, and societal structures. These symbols provide cohesion, reinforce thematic depth, and encourage audiences to reflect on multiple layers of meaning, from immediate survival to broader philosophical considerations about morality, continuity, and human engagement with nature. Symbolic elements operate alongside physical, visual, and auditory storytelling, creating a multidimensional cinematic experience. Family and relational bonds remain the emotional core of the film. Jaguar Paw's determination to protect Seven and their children grounds the narrative in intimate stakes, while Seven's courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness complement his efforts. Their relational dynamics demonstrate that survival is collaborative, encompassing physical skill, strategic thinking, emotional resilience, and ethical commitment. This relational focus ensures that audience engagement is both visceral and emotional, reinforcing universal human themes of love, loyalty, and protection. The film's conclusion emphasizes resilience, continuity, and hope. Jaguar Paw's reunion with his family and the birth of his child symbolize renewal and cultural preservation. By choosing retreat into the forest over confrontation with external colonial forces, the narrative highlights ethical decision-making, autonomy, and familial prioritization. The ending offers both emotional closure and philosophical reflection, encouraging consideration of the cyclical nature of civilizations, the enduring strength of human bonds, and the capacity for individuals to exert meaningful agency in the face of overwhelming forces.